Okay, if you could stay for a second, I just want to sum this up a little bit. For me, it was a very interesting day. I learned a lot, and I would like to, 2 or 3 minutes maximum before you're all invited to join the reception outside. I would like to, I don't want to run in front of you. I would like to sum up what I was able, the new insights I found today. There are 3 groups: community, distribution, and content. We talked a lot about community today. Actually, the Minister of State already started with his address. And obviously, when we say community, we're talking about very different things. Obviously, there's something like a generational gap between what is accepted as a community experience and what is not. Obviously, people who run MySpace and the millions who are taking part in it have the strong feeling that this virtual community is a real community. As the quote stated that I showed at the beginning of the day, it's a generational thing whether you think that the real life takes place offline or whether online there is a real life as well. I just want to point out that the history of media shows us that in the theater, the people on the stage were real, meat. The people in the audience were real, meat. Then the movies came along, and obviously the people on the stage became shadows. And people, cultural critics in the early 20th century, wrote a lot about the effects of a lot of people sitting in the dark, watching shadows, adoring shadows. Now the internet comes along, and suddenly I think we can see that the audience as well becomes not shadows, but virtual. Think of sites as like Second Life, where people watch together audiovisual content, and if it, from shows, stage shows, to the Reuters news, they watch it together in a virtual space, and they discuss it, and they're all virtually present, though they are at home all over the world. So I think what we can see is we are moving toward a virtualization of the audience as well, but that doesn't mean that it's not a community experience. The second thing, the distribution. We heard from Warren about life after DVD, and we learned that it'll be at least another 10 years till we will be able to actually download that kind of content. But on the other hand, we learned from Jamie and Stefan that something that actually media historians have realized in the middle of the 20th century already, that the distribution of goods always follows the state of the art of networking. So if you have railways or broadcasting, that's the state of the art of technology. So you have a centralized distribution. And what Jamie showed us were new ways of peer-to-peer distribution that actually makes use of the different decentralized structure of the internet. And I think that, and then of course Stefan showed us that in 2025 we can have all the content that humanity has ever produced on one iPod. So I think what I saw in that is that the difference between renting and purchasing is basically disappearing, because if you have all the content that had ever been produced on your iPod, it's obviously you own it already, you have it. It's obviously a question of licensing or whatever. So I think that we're nearing the point where distribution, as we know it, is disappearing. And then last but not least, or most important, we learned from the 2 representatives of the gaming industry, Guillaume and Geoff, that they are developing, that they are working hard on developing new ways of telling stories. And that actually, I think, is the most important thing, because that's what made the theater great and then made the movies great. And that probably it will now make the games great. But we can see also from the history of media that the old media, theater when the movies came along, the movies when television came along, that the old media is not disappearing. It may be a little bit, may become a little bit marginalized or whatever you call it. But what we can see, the same happened with photography and painting. We can see that the new media is inspiring always the old media. That the old media changes and becomes more interesting in my eyes. There was a blossoming of the theater in the 1920s. I think there was also a very good period for New Hollywood, for the American movie industry, when television finally became a real competition because it became colorful in the early 70s. And so I think that the emergence of new ways of storytelling from digital media will actually lead us into something like a new golden age of storytelling in film. And we can, I think, already see in these new American TV series that I find fascinating in comparison to Gunsmoke or something like that, that the internet, that digital media is inspiring the artists, every artist, in which media he or she is working. So thank you very much for coming and sharing that experience with us. Thank you.